Hi, this is Marek from Tryb Solo. Today I'd like to talk about Black Rose Wars from Ludus Magnus Studio. Thanks Ludus Magnus for sending it for review. I would like to talk to you about the base game, the gameplay of Black Rose Wars, but also about the two solo modes that are available for this game. One is a print and play version of this solo mode that was available during the Kickstarter campaign, and the second solo mode is something that will be released in Black Rose Wars Rebirth, the sequel to this game, but it's also available in print and play version to try. Black Rose Wars is a game for 2 to 4 players, if you don't count the solo mode. This is a game about mages that arrived in the Black Rose Covenant to become Grand Master of the whole Covenant, and they will compete with each other, they will fight with each other, there will be battles in order to one of them become the Grand Master of this whole Covenant. Let me show you how the game plays. I will also explain the both solo mode, and then I will tell you my opinion on this game. So this is Black Rose Wars during a solo game. First I would like to tell you about the rules in general, how you play Black Rose Wars, and then I will jump into the solo rules, because there are basically 2 solo variants in this game. This is the Black Rose Lodge with different rooms and different locations. You will move your mage, each player has got a mage, player board and a miniature, and you will move your mage around the rooms, activating them, gaining different bonuses and abilities. But the main goal is, of course, to destroy other mages and to score 30 power points to prove that you are the worthy candidate to become a new Grand Master of the Black Rose Lodge. Each player has to choose a mage. There are 4 mages in the base game of the Black Rose Wars. There are expansions with additional mages, but in the base game you have 4 of them. And each mage board has a spot for damage tokens, because during the game, of course, you will cast spells and deal damage to your opponents, but they will do the same. And each time an opponent deals damage to you, the opponent will put the cubes in his or her colors here. And when you reach the maximum threshold of your damage tokens, then you will be, you can say, destroyed, but you will not lose the game, but you will be sent back to your cell. Each mage has got a tile with his or her personal cell, and you will be moved back there, and the players that damaged your mage will score power points. Here you have 2 spots for physical actions, because the main goal of this game is to cast different spells, and you will have your grimoire, a deck of cards with different spells. But apart from the spells, each turn of the game, in this game a round is called turn, so in each turn of the game you will be able to use 2 physical actions. You have these tokens here, and they allow you to move to a different room and activate the room, or you can fight, physically punch your opponent and activate a room as well. The information on your board tells you how many rooms you can move with this action and how much damage you will cause when you physically punch your enemy. This is your health value, 10 points for Jafar, and this is the maximum number of cards that you can hold in your hand during the game, because you will get spells from your deck, and then you will, of course, use your cards, but 9 cards for Jafar is the number of cards he can hold. And the most important thing on your player board are the 3 slots here, because in the game, when you have your spells, you will have to put spells in these slots. Each turn has got a special preparation phase where you will use the cards in your hand, and you will have to place them on your player board. The catch here is that you will have to activate your spells in a specific order. So if you put a spell here, here and here, there are numbers like spell 1, spell 2 and spell 3, then each time you activate in the activation phase, you will have to activate the spells from left to right. So if you have a very powerful spell in the slot number 3, you will not be able to use it in your first activation. There's also a quick spell slot. This slot can be used anytime, so you can use the spell before spell 1 or between spell 1 and spell 2. This is a quick spell, but the remaining spells will have to be activated in order. And this is the main strategy in this game, to properly place your spells here, so when you activate them, they will be useful for you and you will be able to deal as much damage as you planned. I will talk about spells a little later. So you have the main board. There's a small board on the left. This is event board, because each turn of the game, at the start of the game, you will randomly draw an event, and the event will give some special rules for the given turn. Sometimes player will get power points for doing something, or will get damage. Different random things occur every turn of the game. On the right is the quest board. In the game you have quests, and apart from fighting each other and dealing damage to your enemies, you will be able to do different quests. Each turn, if you don't have any quest, you can take one quest from the board, and it will tell you what you have to do, what is the bonus here, and you will also gain power points. Because power points, you need to gain power points to win the game. The first player who reaches 30 power points initiates the end of the game. In the cleanup phase of each turn, if any player has got 30 power points, the game ends, and then you will score additional points for quests, for destroying rooms, for trophies that you will acquire during the game, because if you fight with other mages and you deal the final blow, you will get a trophy from this mage. Then the player with most trophies gets additional points. But basically the power points that you can get are from quests, are from destroying and damaging other mages, and from, you can say, destroying different rooms in the lodge, because each room has got a specific number of I will show you one room. For example, this one, you have this room and you have spots for cubes, and this is it shows how many instability tokens the room can hold before it gets destroyed. Each time you place an instability token, either by casting a powerful spell or by using actions from the spells, you will place a cube in your color, and when the track here on each room, on one room is full, then the player with most instability tokens will get this activation token and will put it on your player board, and at the end of the game you will score the number of points here. So by destroying different rooms you will be also able to score points. So this is the event board, this is the quest board. In this game is also, you can say, invisible opponent, the Black Rose itself. The Black Rose Coven has got a guardian, and the guardian like checks and also takes part in the tournament to make sure that you are the worthy candidate to become the Grand Master. Black Rose has also got a token on this point track here. It can score power points. Black Rose can damage rooms, can attack different players. It doesn't have any miniature, it only acts from the event cards and from, evocations and stuff like this. Evocations are some minions that can be summoned on the battlefield. But Black Rose can score points as well, and there can be a situation where Black Rose will win the whole game, the whole tournament. so none of the players will be worthy of becoming the Grand Master of the Black Rose Covenant. I talked about evocations. There are also this special, like, you know, creatures, minions that you can summon on the board, and then they will act for you. Each mage can summon up to 3 evocations. There is this whole deck. You can summon evocation by activating different rooms. You can summon evocations from some powerful spells, and they have their move value, fight value, and life points. And if you manage to summon evocations at the last stage of the round before the cleanup phase, evocations will move on the board and will fight with different evocations, or will fight with your opponent mages. I wanted to talk about spells because spells are a very important thing in this game. In this game you have 6 schools of magic. You have Distraction, Illusion, Divination, Necromancy, Conspiracy, and Transmutation. At the start of the game you have to choose one of the schools. Each player has to choose a different school. And for example, if you choose Transmutation, you have this card, and you have 2 sets of starting spells, like Shapeshifter and Ritualist of Change. And you have to choose one of the spell sets, and they will become your starting grimoire, your starting hand of cards. Also, each mage has got 3 unique cards. That one of the cards will also be added to your starting grimoire. So at the start of the game you will have 7 cards. Then you have to shuffle the remaining cards. Each player does the same. So you have 6 different types of spells, schools of magic. The starting set of the cards you get doesn't say that you need to use only this type of cards during the whole game. It's just the starting grimoire. During the game you'll be able to get any spell cards you want that will fit your strategy and your play style. One thing I didn't mention in this game, you have this power track here, PowerPoint track here, and you will score. When you score power points, you will move your mage tracker on this track. But there are 3 moon phases in this game. The first one, the second one when someone reaches 6 power points, and the last one when someone reaches 18 power points. And each quest deck and each event deck, there are 3 event decks and 3 quest decks, and they have the corresponding moon phase on the back. So if any player or the Black Rose reaches the specific number of power points, you have to switch quest and event decks to the deck that corresponds to the current moon phase, and you will have more powerful events, maybe more powerful quests that will give you more points or give you different actions or bonuses. So you start with the first moon phase, but then during the game you will have to switch event decks and quest decks. So you have your starting hand of spells. Let's say here are my spells. And these spells in this game, they have 2 sides. One side and other side. And the spells, the 2 sides of each spell, they have like a little similar action, like Maelstrom deals damage. But for example, this one, move all models from adjacent rooms to the target room, then inflict 2 damage to each model in this room. And this action inflicts 3 damage on each model in the target room. So the action in both cases works a little similar, but there are some changes. And when you choose a spell to put on your player board, you have to decide which side of the spell you will use. You cannot decide during the game. Before you act, you have to choose one side, because you will put the spells on the hidden side, so other players don't see your spells, and then you will reveal the card when it's your activation, and you will use this right side of the spell. So you have different spells from different type of magic. The first phase of the game starts with black rose phase, where you will draw new event and something will happen. Then is study phase. In the study phase, you can take 2 cards from your grimoire, from your spell deck, and then you can choose 4 cards from any school of magic you want. And from the 4 cards that you will choose, you will keep 2 and discard 2. So each turn of the game, you will gain 4 cards, 2 from your grimoire and 2 from the chosen schools of magic. And this will be your hand. Of course, maybe you have some cards from your previous turns that you can add as well. Then from the cards you have in your hand, you have to choose minimum 2 spells, and you will put the spells on this slot. So you have to place at least 2 spells. You don't have to place all 4 of them. And as I said, you have to choose the side of the spell you want to use. If you want, for example, this top side, you put this card like this, and when it's your activation, you reveal the card and perform the spell here. 3 slots that needs to be cast in the correct order, and 1 quick spell that can be used anytime. So when each player chooses the card from School of Magic and places them on the card, this is preparation phase. Then is the action phase. In player order, each player can perform 2 actions in each activation phase. You can, for example, cast a quick spell and regular spell. You can cast a regular spell and use your physical action as well. The only thing you cannot do, you cannot cast 2 regular spells. Other things can be mixed. You can use 2 physical actions, you can use a quick spell and physical action, you can use a spell and a quick spell. It's up to you. When you do your 2 things, the next player will act, will do the same. When all players are out of actions, the action phase ends, and then is the evocation phase. If there are any evocations on the board, the powerful minions that you can summon, they will move, they will act, they will fight with each other, or they will fight with other mages. It's up to the controlling mage what they do. And then there is a cleanup phase where you have to discard your cards and make order on the board. Also, what I didn't say is that when you move to a different room with your physical action, you can activate a room. Each room has an activation tile that looks like this, and it gives you additional bonus. When someone activates a room, it's put on the inactive side, and it means that this room cannot be activated on the same turn again. In the cleanup phase of each turn, all the activation tokens are put to the active side again, and each player has got this handy reference card that says what each room does. It allows you to draw 1 quest card or gain 1 power point. Each room has got different things, so this is also part of strategy, that you have to move to a specific room that will grant you the abilities you want. There's also the black rose room in the middle, at the center of the lodge. This room can be only activated after the when you're on the second moon phase, but going there allows you to gain spells from the 7 forgotten School of Magic. They are very powerful and they are only 1-time use, so if you use this spell it will be discarded, but the forgotten spells are very powerful, and then they can be obtained in the black rose room. And the game continues. If anyone reaches 30 power points in the cleanup phase, you check if anyone has 30 power points. If yes, then you go to the end game. You will calculate the points from quest. The player that finished most quests will get additional points. The player with most trophies will get points, and you will get points for the rooms that you manage to damage. As I said earlier, you can damage the rooms, and some spells have this black dot in the middle It means they are very powerful, and each time you cast a spell like this, you will add 1 instability token to a room. It sounds like a lot of rules, but believe me, this is not a very complicated and complex. You basically have to choose up to 4 spells from your hand and from the schools of magic of your choice. You will put them on your player board, and then you will act, cast spells, move around the board, activate rooms, and deal damage to evocations and other mages. You can finish quests. There are special events that takes place each turn of the game, and this is basically it. You have to win the game, and you have to score more points than other mages, but also more points than the Black Rose itself, because the game can end with Black Rose winning the game. As for the solo mode, there are 2 solo modes basically. None of them is in the base game box. One solo mode was introduced in Saturn box, and Saturn box is a huge box with all the stretch goals for this game, because this game was crowdfunded on Kickstarter. And the first solo mode was later during quarantine and during COVID. It was published by Ludus Magnus. It's available on their website. It was called the Quarantine Survival Book, and it included all the rules and print and play material for the solo mode that initially was included in Saturn box. In this mode, you don't fight with other mages. The game feels a little different because you don't fight with other mages. You compete with Black Rose itself, and your main goal is to score points, but also fight with, you can say, waves of evocations. So you will not have any opponent mages on the board. You will have a lot of evocations that are summoned by Black Rose, and you will have to fight them, and you will have to destroy them, but also you will have to score 30 power points. You will not use any schools of magic in the way that you gain cards from them each turn. In this solo mode, you will start with a pre-constructed deck. You have 3 pre-constructed decks in the rulebook. You choose one, you take the cards that the rulebook tells you, and this is your grimoire. And each turn you will take 4 cards from your grimoire and cast them, so you will not be able to gain new cards during the game. You will have a set of different quests that are special for this mode. They look like this. You have, of course, to print them and to cut them, because this is if you download the print and play edition, you have to prepare the cards for yourself. But you have different quests. You have 5 quests for each moon phase, and you don't use the quest from your regular game. You also have a set of special events. You will not use the events from the base game. You have some deck of events, 3 decks for each moon phase, and these events are a little different because normally events grant points for Black Rose, the base game events. When an event comes into play, Black Rose gains power points. When an event leaves the board, because each turn you slide the events on the event board, Black Rose will also gain events. But the events for this solo mode, they allow you to gain power points, because at each event you have some additional task that you can complete in order to gain points. Like here, defeat a Cerbero. This is an evocation and you will gain 2 power points. Or for example, you can, destroy 4 Landsknecht. These are the skeletons, gain 5 power points. So because you don't have other mages here and you cannot score points from fighting with mages, you can score power points from destroying evocations. There's also a special deck of Black Rose evocations, and the evocations that Black Rose, your opponent, will use will be taken from this deck, and they have some special abilities, more complex than the evocations from the base game. They do some additional things. Each evocation has got an aggressiveness level. In this mode you also have this Perilium tracker that shows what is the difference between you and the black rose in terms of power points. If you have less power points than the black rose, you move this tracker to minus points. If you have more, you move the tracker to the plus points. And depending on the perihelion tracker, some activations will activate and some not. So if you have more, basically if you have more power points than the black rose on the power points track, more evocations will act. If you have less power points than the black rose, you have a chance to catch up because some of the activations will not activate. The game in this mode feels a little different because, as I said, there is no deck building mechanic here. You don't fight with other mages. You have to score 30 points. It feels more like in a way, maybe, I don't know, dungeon crawler type of game where you move around the board, you try to activate rooms. You have a special set of activation tokens. So some of the activation tokens from the base game are replaced with the special activation tokens. It plays really well, but it feels like a little different game where you focus on using your grimoire in the best way possible and to fight with different evocations. And you of course need to score 30 power points before the black rose manages to do it. So this is the first solo mode. It's available on Ludus Magnus website in a print and play version. I will leave a link to it in the description of the video. And the second solo mode, this is not really a solo mode dedicated to Black Rose Wars, the first game, because this is the solo mode that will be available in Black Rose Wars Rebirth. So the sequel to this game, it was on Kickstarter I think 2 years ago. It will be fulfilled this year. And this solo mode in the sequel of this game allows you to play against Avatar. And Avatar is like an automa mage, AI mage, that will behave like a regular player and you can play against him. Avatars you will also be able to use avatars in a multiplayer game, and the avatar will behave like an additional mage. So if you want to play solo, you will add the avatar and you will have a 2-player game. But if you want to play, if you have, I know, 2 friends and you play a 3-player game, you can add the avatar and it will behave like the 4th player. So this is like an additional automated player. Why I'm talking about this mode if this is a video about the first game? Because again, Ludus Magnus published the rulebook for Black Rose Wars Rebirth in one of the Kickstarter updates, and it also published the avatar from the base game in a print and play form. So you can print it and you can use the avatar in this game, in the base game, the first game as well. So this is what I was doing. The avatar works more like a mage, and it will cast some spells. If in this mode you use your regular player board, you will use all the schools of magic, so all the deck building element will be here again, not like in the previous solo mode. You will choose a school of magic, you will choose the starting set of cards. This will be your starting grimoire. Each turn you will be able to acquire new cards from the chosen school of magic. So this works for you, it works more or less the same. You will use the regular quests. There are not any additional quests or separate quests like in the previous solo mode, but you have a special set of events. There are special events dedicated for this mode. They say avatar here, and they do different things. Basically, the main difference is that the events from this avatar solo mode, they don't give points to Black Rose, because the avatar, when it plays, when it casts spells, and when you damage you, it uses the Black Rose component. So the Black Rose cubes, and it also uses Black Rose PowerPoint tracker. So it's like in the game, in the rulebook, it says it's a possessed mage that was possessed by the Black Rose, and it works on Black Rose behalf. So because it scores points for Black Rose, Black Rose will not gain points from the events because it will be probably too much points and you will not be able to compete with the Avatar. Avatar has also got a deck of cards. So you have this deck of cards, and the cards, each activation, at the start of the game you have to choose the difficulty level. The basic one is says 3 cards, and each turn of the game Avatar will use 3 cards from his deck. So just like you, when you have your 4, 3 or 2 cards in your grimoire, Avatar will use the cards. So after your activation, you will use there will be Avatar activation, and he will take the top card from his deck and perform the actions. And the actions are very different. They work like spells. So Avatar doesn't use the regular spells, but he's got a separate deck of grimoire of spells. And for example, this card says that the Black Rose here icon means Avatar. Avatar inflicts 2 damage and Avatar converts 1 damage. Converting means that if your mage has got damage from other player color, he converts the cube to Black Rose color. And then he moves toward a yellow room. So this is like an action card. The number 2 means that the Avatar has got 3 type of you can say preferred target, and 1, 2, 3, and this card tells you which he will use. So for example, in this case he will choose a room with the closest room with a mage. If there is a tie, then he will choose a mage with most power points. If there is a tie, he will choose the mage with most trophy tokens. So when Avatar needs to decide who to attack, he will use these priorities here, and in the priority list he will try to find his target. The Avatar card also tells you how many life points he has, how many power he has when he punches you, and how far he can go, how many rooms he can use with his physical action. The Avatar has also got a special player board where you can track his life points. You will put Avatar cards here. Here is a space for his grimoire and discarded cards. Avatar can also score points for quests. Some of his cards will tell you that he can score points. Avatar can summon evocations that will work for him just like for you. And there are different cards. Some cards Avatar cards do something, like he inflicts 3 damage, and then this plus means that he will draw another card. Some cards have this shield token, or there are cards with trap token. When the cards like this is shown, it means that if you want to deal damage to Avatar, he will immediately reveal this card, and then he will have like a defense spell. So it's really cleverly designed. You have 3 decks for Avatar, each for a different moon phase. So the Avatar cards change with the moon phase, just like quests and just like events. So with each moon phase he will become more powerful. But the cool thing is that he behaves like a regular mage, and when you play this game with Avatar, you can really feel like playing a normal 2-player game with a human opponent. The main difference with Avatar is that he scores points for the Black Rose. He doesn't have a separate color and a separate token for the power points tracker. So you don't have you, Black Rose and Avatar, but you have you and Black Rose with Avatar like combined in terms of points and the cubes and damaging you and destroying rooms. Avatar will also place the instability tokens. He can also destroy rooms. So this is basically how you play this version of the solo mode. So you have the first solo mode where you fight with evocations, you use pre-constructed decks. This first mode feels a little different, and then you have the second mode with Avatar that feels like playing the regular Black Rose Wars. One avatar will be included in the base game of Black Rose Wars Rebirth, but in the expansions and the stretch goals, will probably be sold as a separate expansions in the future as well. In a lot of expansions for the sequel of this game, there are other avatars, so you will not only have the possessed one that will be in the base game. If you get an expansion, you will also get additional avatars that will behave differently. They will have different cards with different abilities, different command deck. So the Grimoire, will be different for each avatar. A really, really cool idea. So this is basically how you play Black Rose Wars, the first solo mode and the second solo mode. Let's go to summary. I have played Black Rose Wars once in the past, like maybe 2 years ago. I didn't remember a lot. Now when I can finally play it at home, read all the rules, I can confirm that this is really a great skirmish, like battle game. It has a lot of elements that I really like in board games because it looks really good with all the tiles of the rooms and the miniatures, the mages, the evocations. The gameplay is really smooth. I really like the deck building elements, but you have so many different schools of magic and you can get cards from all these schools. You can really adjust the spells you have to your play style or the strategy that you have in a current game. And I also like you can say, simplicity of rules. This game is not very easy. I mean, there are a lot of spells, a lot of quests, events and stuff like this, but the basic rules are quite simple. Pick from 2 to 4 spells for the given turn of the game. Play your spells on your player board in a sequence, so you will program your turn, and then where you activate, you will cast the spells that you have. But you have a lot of spells. You have defensive spells, you have traps, you have spells that deal damage, a lot of cool things. You have all the evocations that you can summon and they work for you like your minions or servants. It's really, really cool. This game has got a lot of positive reviews. It's well received and ranked on Board Game Geek. It's not a surprise that they released or will release the sequel, Black Rose Wars Rebirth. It was on Kickstarter 2 years ago and it should be fulfilled this year. And as for the solo modes, there are 2 of them, as you have seen in the previous part of the video. One of them is the one that was in Saturbox and it was released as a quarantine survival guide. It was really cool. The first solo mode plays differently because you don't fight with other mages and you don't use the deck building elements of this game, but you have to fight with evocations and still trying to get 30 power points. But it's still fun. Of course, the replayability is not as high as in the regular game because you use one of the 3 pre-constructed decks. But if you want, you could try to create your own decks. But it plays cool, more like a dungeon crawler game where you have to fight different enemies and score points. I had fun playing it, but I have to say that the avatar mode is really, really good. The one that will come in Rebirth and the one that is available also for download and print, and of course it's designed for Rebirth, but you can use it in the first game, the Black Rose Wars. It's really cleverly designed because the avatar behaves like a regular mage and is doing most of the things that you can do, but you don't have to use like a deck of regular spells because the avatar has got his own deck of cards that Grimoire, that he can cast different spells from it. So avatar turn is really simple. You have to reveal one card, do the action written on the card. Avatar can damage you, can heal, can place instability tokens, summon evocations, do a lot of things, but it's very simple. Just reveal one card. Sometimes the card tells you to reveal another card, but it's basically it. Do the 2 or 3 actions that are on the card, and that's it, and you can focus on your activation again. It's really cool, and it's cool that apart from the events that are different in this mode, everything else is the same. You have the schools of magic, you have all the quests, you can choose any mage you want, you can get any spells you want. It's really cleverly designed. I'm very curious how the other avatars will work, because the one that you have seen in this video is the basic one that will be included in, maybe not basic, but it's just the one that will be included in Black Rose Wars Rebirth. But there will be a lot of more avatars in all the stretch goal content, so I'm really curious how they play. I will be also curious to play with more avatars. I'm not sure if that's possible, because they all, that's how I understand it, they work for Black Rose, so they use Black Rose cubes and they use Black Rose token to track power points, but maybe with some adjustments it will be possible to play with 2 or 3 avatars and have a solo game with 4 mages in total. It would be great. If you would ask me if it's worth getting Black Rose Wars to play it solo with the first variant, I would say not 100% sure, because even though the first solo variant, the one from Starter Box, it's interesting, where you fight different evocations, but it removes a lot of elements from Black Rose Wars, basically the whole deck building mechanic, gathering new spells. So if you have this game and you would like to try solo, I really recommend downloading and printing the print and play version, just for fun, to play it when you have no other players around. But if you would ask me if it's worth getting Black Rose Wars to play with the avatar mode, I would say yes. And I missed the Black Rose Wars Rebirth campaign, because 2 years ago I didn't even know that you can play this game solo, and I didn't know how the avatar works. But knowing how it works now, I would really love to play Black Rose Wars, especially with the stretch goal content, where you have so many different avatars and they all have different decks of cards that they will use, so they will behave differently. It's really, really cool. So if you are curious if it's worth getting Black Rose Wars Rebirth to play solo, I would say yes. Of course, the 2-player game is a little less tense than a 4-player game, because if you play with 4 players and you have 4 mages and they all summon different evocations, there are a lot of miniatures on the board, a lot of things are going on, and casting powerful spells will cause a lot of damage. It's of course more fun. Playing a 2-player game is more like a duel, but it's still, at least for me, very, very fun. And the cool thing is that you can use avatar mode. You can use avatar in multiplayer games as well. So if you have just 2 players to play Black Rose Wars and would like to have a 3rd mage, you can use the avatar instead of a human player. So it's very cleverly designed. What else can I say? Great game, great skirmish, duel game. I like fantasy games, I like games about magic, I like deck building games. There are a lot of spells, powerful spells, summon, evocations, a lot of cool things. The board is modular, so every time you play the game, it will the lodge will look different. Each time you play the game, you can choose different school of magic, different spells. So the replayability is really, really high, even if the base game, if you add any expansions with additional mages or stuff like this. There's this Inferno expansion where you play cooperatively against some infernal Satan creature. Really, really cool. A lot of cool content for this game, and it looks amazing on the board. The miniatures, everything looks great. If you like skirmish games, battle games, I recommend Black Rose Wars. It's not just my opinion, but it's opinion of a lot of people if you check the reviews on the internet. So thanks for watching this video. Click the like button if you like it, subscribe to my channel, visit me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You will find links in the description of the video. I will also add links in the description to the print and play editions of the 2 solo modes. And thanks for watching, see you next time, bye.